You're watching the News Hour on GMTV. Welcome back. Now, sadly, it's an all too common sight. Teenagers hanging around the streets drinking alcohol. By the age of, this will surprise you, by the age of 15, half of youngsters say they drink alcohol at least once a week. Jonathan Swain has been on the streets of Widnes, where teenage binge drinking is a real problem.
It's a school night, but we still saw gangs of teenagers drinking on the streets. They gather near shops, parks and playing fields and have no concern for the consequences. I spoke to two teenagers who'd already been drinking that evening. They told me what it's like here on a typical Friday night.
Loads of kids, about 16, 17, start getting drunk basically.
So you've been on a few beers already, have you?
Yeah, you could say that. We've had a couple.
So how are you feeling now?
A bit drunk.
Paramedic Steve Evans regularly treats young and conscious teenagers who've been abandoned by their friends. He says the drink probably won't kill them, but being left alone often will. Rebecca's 15-year-old friend was left in that situation only last week.
All the other friends just left her and thought, oh, she'll be all right, just leave her there, she'll get up and walk home and that, which she didn't. She ended up in hospital due to the drinking and being left there alone.
On a typical Friday night, paramedics say they're called to at least 3 incidents in this area where teenagers, some as young as 13 years old, are found lying unconscious on the floor because they've had too much to drink. With the culture of drinking so entrenched at such an early age, it seems these children can't be persuaded to abandon the bottle, but it is hoped they can be persuaded to stay and help their unconscious friend.
Jonathan Swain reporting you there. Well, let's talk now to paramedic Steve Evans, who's behind this campaign to stop teenagers abandoning their friends if they collapse from binge drinking. Shocking this, Steve. I mean, why do they abandon their friends? Would they get into trouble if they were caught with a drunk teenager?
Well, in actual fact, it's because they're doing something illegal that they actually feel that they can't get in touch with the emergency services and think that they will actually get into trouble. Our main concern is for the child that's unconscious, left lying on the back, liable to vomit, because alcohol is a poison, especially in a child, and we would encourage children to actually phone up on their mobiles and stay with their friend as long as they can. But we don't prejudge people, but we do have a duty of care.
What advice then would be, look, you're not going to get into that much trouble and it's going to be a lot better to save your friend or look after the life of your friend, really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One of the problems is the fact that they don't actually know about the recovery position because first aid is not taught in most schools. It's not on the school curriculum. And so I'm actually not only putting posters out with youth groups and schools, but I'm actually going into schools and youth groups and showing them how to put people in the recovery position safely and encouraging them to phone for the ambulance.
Despite the figures, Steve says that experience has shown him he can't actually stop teenagers drinking. Instead, he wants to encourage them to drink safely. His Don't Walk Away campaign in schools and youth clubs is designed to make sure youngsters know how to look after each other properly by teaching them basic first aid, like putting someone in the recovery position.
The safest position to put anybody in who is unconscious, whether it's drugs or alcohol. And it works like this. And it's a silly little saying, but it works for me. And that is the first thing we're going to do is get our unconscious patient's hand to say hello. Having done that, what we need to do is get their hand to come alongside their face and rest against their cheek. So when you roll them over, it's not going to be scratched, their face isn't going to be scratched. So it goes, hello, cheeky. Now what we're now going to do is raise the casualty's knees up, and what we're going to use is the weight of their thigh to roll them towards ourselves. So it goes, hello, cheeky, let's have a knees up, yeah? And the final part of it is by supporting the person's head and putting your hand on their knee, they will roll towards you. And that's whether it's as big as me or a little person turning a big person. And so we finish off with, hello, cheeky, let's have a knees up and go for a roll.
All the drug action agencies locally have all taken posters, so we now cover Merseyside, Cheshire and the Wirral. But it is early days and we've got to make an impact because, as far as I'm concerned, it will only be a very short period of time before we actually have a dead child.
Frightening. None of us want that. Are we being realistic, though, in thinking we can stop teenagers drinking? I mean, the figures show that almost a fifth of 13-year-olds drink at least once a week. half of 15-year-olds say they drink once a week. And I think we can all remember, can't we, growing up, that there was a point, at some point, when you were going to try alcohol, wasn't there?
Oh, absolutely, and you're not going to stop these children drinking. Everybody else up to now has been trying to stop them drinking. I'm trying to make it as safe as possible. As far as I'm concerned, the old days where you used to hang around off licences and pull a man's sleeve and say, can you go and get us a bottle of cider? Those days have gone. These children are now drinking super strength lager and vodka, and they're getting it from somewhere, because nobody goes into an off licence and buys a small child that sort of stuff. So they must be getting it from somewhere.
Thanks very much indeed. Well, it's a great campaign you're working. Let's hope it has some effect. If you're interested in Steve's Don't Walk Away campaign, we do have details of that on our website, gmtv.co.uk. Worthwhile checking that out.